First of all, let's talk about the Chiefs. You've had a bit of time to recover from Clermont, and I know after the game, although it was a heavy scoreline, I know you took some positives from it. How have you been able to kind of accentuate those positives this week?
Well, I think what you have to do is you have to accept the reasons why you lose and the mistakes you make. First and foremost, I think that's the important thing, is to be prepared to say you're not good enough on the day, and there's things you can learn from it. And we think we're pretty good at doing that. I think the experience of playing in Clermont is probably worth playing a dozen Premiership games. That's how you have to look at it, and the things we learn, if we're prepared to work on them, will down the line improve us as a side. My ambition would be to take an Exeter team back to Clermont and do better than we did. And I think that's very much how you have to approach it. And as I say, you have to use the experience as a positive. And as I say, and be prepared to learn the tough lessons, and not just say, oh, it's a one-off, or that we can write that game off, guys. No one's going to go to Clermont and win, and they haven't lost there for 54 games or whatever. I think it's very easy to do that. But we haven't done that at all. We've examined the game in detail, we've looked at things we did well and we did badly, and we're going to use those things to make us a better side, and I think being prepared to do that is the most important thing.
What did you learn?
I'm not going to divulge everything, but first and foremost, I think there was an intensity and a physicality about some of the things that Clermont did that we obviously have to learn to cope with and introduce into our own game. And I think there was also an element of control and when to change tempo, and a little bit of work on how they created space that we maybe don't do. And I think combining those few things, we've already worked on a couple of things in training this week. We're already starting to see some rewards from that in the training we've done. What we have to do is keep working at it and become comfortable with a couple of the things we've been trying to do for a couple of weeks, and eventually they'll start to come through in games.
You had a couple of guys come off injured last week. What's the latest on the fitness situation of those guys?
Yeah, we've got a few bumps and bruises. It's a bit unfortunate. We've played Clermont twice now and not been able to put a proper structured 15 on the pitch for the last quarter. So a little bit of difficulties there. But Phil Dom and Gonzalo Camacho, they're not serious injuries, but they are ones that need a little bit of care and attention. And we'll be expecting to see those guys back when we probably resume Premiership rugby, but probably not this week. Ali Muldowney a little bit more serious, although not as serious as we first thought. So I think we're awaiting the results of an MRI scan, but X-rays are pretty clear, and so we're a little bit more hopeful than we initially were that it may not be as a severe injury as we first thought.
How much of a blow is it to you to lose both Phil and Gonzalo, because they've been quite a fixture in that first 15?
Yeah, and they've been playing very well. They give us a bit of sparkle in our back line, but at the same time, there is a reality. We've got guys like Sorelli Nakalavuki to get involved. Ian Whitton's been playing well and did well when he came on off the bench. So we've got some good options there. We have been rotating through these guys a little bit, and I think now when you see us pick up a couple of injuries, what we've got to make sure is that our policy of changing those guys in and out a little bit now comes to fruition, and Sorelli drops in and is comfortable. Witts moves out the wing if we need him and is comfortable. Those are the kind of things that we have to be prepared to do, and hopefully we'll get a good response from those guys who come in.
Final European game of the season, and how important is it, or how good would it be to get a victory over Leinster?
It'd be a fantastic achievement on its own. I think primarily because the pressure that Leinster are under to come here and win, and possibly chase a bonus point as well. So they're going to be coming here absolutely full on. I think that's very good for us. That's the kind of scenario we want to play in. I certainly don't want to be playing in a dead rubber of a game, because I think we'll probably learn less about it. And as I said, learning to cope with intensity but bring your own intensity is the big lesson for us. And I think because of that, to be having to play out here against Leinster, who are really going to be coming at us and going for it, is the best scenario.
You look at that Leinster side, and we talked about it before you played them in the very first Heineken Cup game, all the big stars and those sorts of things, but you've played against big stars from, the Scarlets, you've played against big stars at Clermont. These guys are used to it now, really, aren't they? I guess they're not starstruck anymore.
No, and I think you've got to, that's the whole point of the experience, is to become a little bit more comfortable with it, and then you can maybe start to impose yourself on the game a bit. And I think that's what we have to try and do as we become a little bit more comfortable. This has been a tough group. We've won 2 games out of 5 so far. I'd love us to be able to say, we'd won 3 out of 6 in a pool like this. That'd be a fantastic achievement in our first kind of season in the Heineken Cup. But this is a massive challenge, but is there any better game that we could have looked forward to a couple of years ago than the European Cup holders at home in front of a sellout Sandy Park, with something riding on the last game of the pool. I think, all in all, it's just a fantastic occasion for us to be involved with.
On the other hand, though, if you look at the recent results, and I'm sure they're not, it could well be, if Leinster are chasing that bonus point, you're staring at 4 games without a win, and it could possibly be 5, if the bookies are to be believed. And how much of a concern is that for you, that there is a little bit of a streak going on here?
I never get too worried about streaks of wins, streaks of losses. We've had both. A little while ago we were on a 7-game winning streak, and it is what it is. You turn up for work and you get on with things, and you try and work and get better, and that'll be the same for us now. We're in an incredibly tough run of fixtures. We should be disappointed not to be winning more. Of course we should, but there is a reality that we've had some issues with the weather, and whether that suited the way we play, we've had the odd injury issue, and we're kind of dealing with things pretty well. Our level of performance is staying pretty high, and that's all we can focus on as a group, really, is performing as well as we can. The results will come as a result of us performing well and as working hard. They won't come just because we want a losing run to end, or because we want a winning streak to continue. It doesn't work like that. You get the groundwork done and you take what comes.
So, thank you very much.
In terms of where you are, Rob, 4 years ago, I was looking last night, you were warming up for a derby game down at Plymouth Albion, and this weekend, like you say, you're playing European Champions. It shows how far the club's come in a relatively short period of time. Yeah,
it's like anything. I'm kind of not too concerned now about where we've come and where we're going, and I think we've got to. I think we're moving past isn't this fantastic? We're in the Heineken Cup. We've got to learn to move on from that a little bit as well. This is a fantastic fixture, and I said this before. A great reward for how well we did last year. Great reward for our supporters. As I've said before, some who've been following the club for years and years and years, and they've been to some pretty dire grounds and watched us play some pretty dire rugby and not get some great results. There's some truth to that. I've been part of it and seen it happen. So, that part of it is fantastic. What we have to do as a management, as a team, is almost start to say, well, this is where we want to be every week. This is the level of performance we want to be involved in every week. This is the kind of intensity we want to play every week. And those have got to become the drivers for us, not drivers that every now and again will be involved in something that's special or something that's historic. Let's talk about what we want to be involved in a level at every week.
You said to me after the game over in France that when you look back at it, you probably see a lot of positives, and I'd imagine now you've really reviewed the tapes. You went probably 40 minutes with neither side scoring.
Yeah,
it's strange in a game like that.
Yeah, that's reality. The scoreboard says one thing. The scoreboard says a very one-sided game where we were clearly second best. Reviewing the video, you look at Props, their first 2 scores in the first half. One's a kind of a length of the pitch. It involves us defending it pretty well, and a bit of a speculative chip ahead that bounces almost horizontally to the one player they've got chasing, and away they go. And that can happen against you sometimes, and you take that on the chin. Second try, we win the ball at a counter ruck, and it bobbles straight to an international winger who makes a break, and then they finish it off. Sometimes those things are tough, and you just have to deal with them. And at that stage, what they ended up going in, I think 17 points in the lead. We'd missed 2 kicks at goal. Half time, 20 points to 9, 20 points to 12 wouldn't have been a major hurdle for us. What happens straight after half time? We blow a try scoring opportunity in the corner. You look at those things and you think, well, with 30 minutes to go, 20 points to 15, what kind of a game would it be? But those things didn't go quite our way. And as I said, a few injuries went against us. The positives, when you actually build and restructure the game from our perspective, are there. We had set piece ball, we had possession, we maintained possession. For a large part, we stood in front of them defensively. They only made one clear line break. But what they did do was they offloaded well in the tackle when we were making more passive tackles than we needed to make. And they eventually physically rolled us back. And a couple of their tries that came around the fringes of breakdowns, they came after them, maintained the ball 6-7 phases where they made ground on every carry. And although we weren't missing tackles and although they weren't making line breaks, they were taking territory off us with a bit of physicality and intensity. And that's obviously a big lesson for us. That's what we have to be able to withstand and bring to the big games ourselves.